Good evening and welcome down, everybody. For those of y'all joining the stream, whether it's on LinkedIn, whether it's on Facebook, or whether it's on YouTube, thank you so much for joining us on Tech Talk Friday. I'm Nigesh Arman, and I'm one of your hosts for today. And hope you're nicely seated already, or if you have your handphone with you, or if you're just listening to us on your drive back, thank you so much for joining us. And if you saw the ad as we just started, Tech Talk Friday is brought to you by Nicole. And Nicole, that's something which is a baby that I'm working on, is a learning platform. Sorry, it's a learners platform. I got to get that right. It's actually for everybody out there who really want to accelerate either their skills, future, career. Get on it. Check out nicole.app and you will get to know more about Nicole. All right. So that's the front blurb. But today is all about Tech Talk. This is your weekly digest of tech that is happening around Malaysia or sometimes even the world. But it doesn't happen alone with me. I've got an eco partner, and I'm going to keep that word, eco partner, even though Roshan is no more our host. He used to be our host. So our eco host here on the show. Let's bring on Mr. Karamjit from DNA. Karam?
Thank you. Hey, how's it going, man?
All good. How's it going for you?
Okay, not too bad. Caught up in telco news, right, with the Axiata, potential Axiata, not Axiata, but Digi and Celcom merger. Yeah, but we'll talk about that next week. And I'll try to get some telco guy to come on and give their thoughts on that.
Yep, that's going to be a bit spicy, and we'll talk about that next week. I just commented to Karam before during the backstage that he sounds like he's in a refrigerator. Guys, he has his aircon compressor, which is just there. So don't mind. Karam's just getting cool because
no, I'm just sweating my assets. Okay, it's a 12-year-old aircon. Okay, but it's a very reliable Japanese brand. It's a Japanese brand. Yeah.
You know, like they say, they don't make them like they used to, right?
Absolutely not. Absolutely.
All right. Speaking of which, Karam, I think we didn't do this for a while, but it's good to do this. It's good to do this where we sort of recap what's hot on DNA right now. And I think there's 4 quite interesting stories that we have right there. Let's start with the first one. Maybe bring us through that. Karam's top tech stories of the week. I think the first one is about...
let me go. So
Capitalised policy?
Yeah. So Capitalised policy. So I think those who are aware, so all countries obviously create policies that as far as possible can help companies in those countries. So we have a Capitalised policy. A lot of countries have it. And basically the issue right now is that, those all of us now, a lot of you are watching this wirelessly or even via wired, right? And we're all relying on internet connectivity. And that connectivity comes from submarine cables, right, that connect one continent to another. Now, you may have heard of Elon Musk or Facebook or somebody else, Jeff Bezos, trying to deliver a broadband connectivity via satellites. Very difficult, very expensive to do. They're still working on it, but right now we're all relying on these satellites, crisscrossing the oceans. Now, so these are, or you can expect these are US billion-dollar assets, right? These cables. And there's always the concern that the cable could break, snap. Snap, or dredged by a trawler or whatnot. Could happen, or a very hungry killer shark decides to take a bite out of that instead of your thigh, right? So anyway, what is happening? So these owners of these cables, when they sign a contract to land in a country, they also said that if my cable is cut, I would like a ship of this quality, technical qualities, to come and repair the ship. In Malaysia, we don't have that quality ship, but the previous Minister of Transport, Anthony Loke, said that, hey, this makes sense, so I'm going to make an exception to our current cabotage policy, which states that you must use a Malaysian flag vessel to do any repairs in Malaysian water. Okay, fantastic. All the MNCs are happy, or Amazons and all that. And then what happens now? We've got this current minister, Wee Ka Siong, who is clueless and clearly getting brainless advice or so. And I don't miss my words because this is a very dangerous thing that is happening. And the talk is that, and because we've got one ship one company in the country that has a ship that is a lower quality than what these MNCs want to repair the ships, he's saying that no, we have to use a Malaysian flag vessel to repair anything that's in Malaysian water. So the MNCs are up in arms. They're super pissed. And there's this concern that we're going to lose billions of dollars of investments in data centers and in these cables in a landing in the country, to make our internet connectivity more efficient. And so the chairman of MDAC, so I've written a piece, others have written a piece. Chairman of MDAC, Dato' Wira, who was actually a telco guy about 20 years ago, wrote a very measured and practical piece, whereas this gets me angry and emotional. Dato' Rais with his PhD comes and lays out the economic argument and why this is not a wise thing to do. He's using it's not wise. I'm saying it's plain stupid and dumb. But it has been done, but there's a lot more pressure coming for the minister to overrule that. And I've actually asked the government, the prime minister, the cabinet to overrule this. If somebody acts dumb, you cannot be dumber by saying, okay, that's your turf, you know what's best. Clearly, it's not the best thing to do. So go and read that article and ignore all the times I've called the minister dumb.
Because Karam doesn't want to.
We'll edit that out in the live stream, right? Or can we edit live stream? We'll come up with
Sorry, Karam. It's already there. So Karam has this ability to get caught by the police and then escape in like a few seconds. So what's that? So maybe quickly. The other three.
So I took too much time with this. Sorry. So the next one is we've got this program called Jendela. Jendela is all about with the government and with the MCMC and the Communication Ministry. They are trying to improve, again, connectivity in this country, right? It is a hygiene factor, and we frankly want our connectivity to be world-class. And I don't think we're far away from that. We've done a lot of good over the years. Now we're trying to aim to be world-class. And one of the things they want to do is strengthen 4G and remove 3G and 2G even. And when they do that, they will take the spectrum. The spectrum is the highway in which all this wireless communication, right, travel along. They want to release that spectrum and move it and give it to the telcos in 4G and this one-stop company in 5G or so. And this is just a progress report. Lots of good data points there. We are on track. Congratulations to MC, the chairman, Dr. Fadul and the minister. So they're doing well here.
Right. And then
so the other two, So very quickly is on. We had a webinar recently, and we were talking about innovations in e-commerce. So we had the general manager of Hula. And Hula is actually innovating around this buy now, pay later. And we're asking them what's the innovation going on in the e-commerce space. He says that this is the innovation where you allow people to buy now and pay across 3 equal payments, right? And he says that innovative because you're helping people, you're making it easier for people to purchase something they need to. So he believes that's innovation. Ganesh said that the innovation is in social commerce. And live commerce. So not social. Live commerce is where you got somebody like Roshan doing his song and dance and Bharata Natyam on camera and telling you to buy this leadership book or that management book, right? That's his forte. So you basically pick somebody who's probably a subject matter expert in his or her space, and if they're peddling something, or peddling sounds like a cheap word, right? But you're hustling, right? They're selling something where they're experts in. The idea is that people will be more inclined to purchase those products. So Ganesh says live commerce. And then the third one, e-commerce, is Clarence Leong, who runs Easy Parcel. He says that the digitization of logistics is an innovation. So go and read that article, and we'll move on to the final one. And I think this is a good friend or a respected peer of Thomas Tsao. And this is Kylie Ng. So Kylie Ng was actually Kylie spoke at a conference that Thomas Tsao organized. This was an internal Gobi conference. I think they do it yearly. Of course, this year was online. And Kylie is one of the speakers. And Kylie was talking about how it is very important that Southeast Asia gets somebody who launches so SPACs is the special purpose action vehicle, acquisition companies, right? So you raise a bunch of money on the US market because they're so risk friendly there. And then with a promise that you will eventually buy a promising technology company and get it listed so that investors can ride on a promising company at the early stage, right? Not until it's raised like, $100 million or $1 billion, and then, the valuation goes up, right? So allow you to come in early. So that's the premise lah. So, Patrick Grove has already has got one SPAC now, but Kylie is saying whoever launches the first SPAC, meaning that you actually have a company that SPAC converts to the company. He said there's a lot of responsibility on your shoulders to make sure you pick the right company so that SPAC does well and it creates a good impression for the whole region. Kylie is so young, but he's so mature, and so he's not young anymore. Okay, Kylie, you're still in your 30s, he's still young, but very grounded viewpoint from somebody like him about that. So go and have a read of that article. Anything that comes out of Kylie's mouth is nuggets of gold. And with that, we are now going to give you pearls and platinum nuggets, right, from the mouth of Thomas Tsao.
Okay,
Thomas
before we
Tsao is
get
probably
before
a
we get
peer
Thomas,
and
before we get
a
Thomas.
senior peer of Kylie's. Okay, sorry.
Okay,
Go ahead now.
before we get Thomas, so Saji kind of agreed with you initially about that whole minister being clueless. But to be fair, it's not just him. It's a whole
Yes.
bunch of goons behind the
Yeah,
decision, and
correct.
we should shame the entire ministry. Okay, so
Yeah,
good
sure.
thoughts.
But good shot, and let's hope the goons don't know where I live, because goons, got a lot of muscle. What they lack up here, they make up here. And as you
I'm
can see, I don't
staying
have
away from
much
this.
here.
I
Hey,
want to stay
you
in my home.
are
I don't
my
want to get caught.
bro. Don't be a wuss. You are my equal host. Equal host. You
Oh
share the pay.
no!
One leg
Oh
broken
no!
there, one leg broken there. Okay.
Cannot. I'll keep my legs.
Oh
But
yeah. Then you're
but
not my equal host. You're just your co-host. Okay. I cannot call you equal host.
yo, poach it. Okay, anyway, what Saji did was awesome. Thanks for the comments. There's some actually comments coming in from LinkedIn and Facebook. Please do that, yeah? If you have questions, you have comments, leave them there. If we got time, we'll bring that up. So, keeping in time, and let's bring up our first guest. Let's bring Thomas, who's from Gobi Partners, who's here to talk about the topic, Malaysia's startup constipation point. Whoa.
Yeah.
All right.
Very
Welcome,
good,
Thomas.
Thank you very much. So Thomas is one of the most respected people in in the whole of Asia in the venture capital space, and we are quite fortunate in Malaysia that he somehow felt that Malaysia would be the best place for him to build out a Southeast Asian presence. So he's been here for almost 6 years, and he has no regrets about it, which is wonderful. But when we were talking recently, Thomas was saying that he feels he has identified the constipation point in the Malaysian startup ecosystem. And Thomas, I would like to ask you and share with you. They don't know what you feel, what you've identified. So tell us why you feel this particular thing is the constipation point, and more important, what do you think can be done to unblock it, and let it all flow, let the money flow, right? Instead of let some other biological material flow.
Let it go. Yeah, no.
Let it go.
Oh, Karamji, I'm delighted to be here on a Friday evening with your loyal audience, and I feel honored that I'm with the guru of TED Talk here. I don't know if I've got any platinum nuggets. Kylie is master, and I totally agree with what you said. We were delighted that he could be a guest at the Gobi conference, and I agree with you. I hope I can live up to what Kamji just said. Platinum nuggets. All right, I'm gonna try to work hard on that. So back to Karamjeet's point. A constipation point. I think maybe a bit too vivid. So let's think about it as maybe a choke point or a bottleneck. I think after 6 years now in Malaysia, I feel like I've met a lot of people with a lot of good intentions. I think everybody in Malaysia agrees that digital transformation, entrepreneurship, innovation, critical to Malaysia's continued success. And I think at all levels of government, and then also within the tech ecosystem, right? So a lot of great agencies, MDEC, Magic, MavCap, all doing great things, trying to spur on the ecosystem. People like Kylie, 500 startups, others, ourselves, all adding to the ecosystem, folks like Sunway. So I think the supply of entrepreneurs in Malaysia, the amount of support within the tech ecosystem that they can get access to has increased. And I know we're going to get to this question later, but relative to the rest of Southeast Asia, I think the support that entrepreneurs are getting here is actually quite good, right? And then the government, right, senior leadership, despite some of the changes, right, every leader has said Malaysia needs to invest more into its own homegrown tech companies. So why are we not seeing more being done, right?
Okay.
And I think having operated now in the ecosystem and playing a very small role, I think I've identified what one of those choke points I think could be. A lot of good intentioned people. So the directive from on top is, hey, more money needs to be invested to support. There's a lot of startup capital, seed funds, angel investors in Malaysia, the equity crowdfunding platforms, the Malaysia Co-Investment Fund from the Securities Commission, all doing great things. So what's missing? I think sometimes good intentions can sometimes lead to maybe not ideal results. It's because what's happening is a lot of the big institutional investors in Malaysia clearly have the directive, but I think there's a mismatch with people that are being appointed to these very important ICs, investment committees, investment panels, who are very successful. People succeeded in accounting, auditing, commercial banking, investment banking. They're lawyers. But because they're so successful what they've done, their success was always about maybe managing risk. And their tolerance for risk or understanding of what is risk is different than what VC guys or entrepreneurs are used to. So when you put these very talented individuals who you appointed for because of what they accomplished in their prior careers, there's sometimes a mismatch. And so while everybody wants to go fast, sometimes they're going, hey, we need to take it slow, because their understanding what made them successful may not fit in with the tech investment trends that's needed, right? So I think that's one. The second one is, these big institutions, and we're seeing the processes get much more streamlined, Kamji, right? For a lot of these big organizations in the past, it was like, hey, the boards or the investment committees only meet once every quarter. And it was like, hey, we got the next hot deal coming out. These companies aren't going to wait for your next board meeting, right? And so sometimes I think opportunities were missed. Now, the good news is a lot of this is getting streamlined, but I think one solution may be when the government's finding these assigning or appointing people to these important investment committees and boards to maybe bring in more diversity, right? People who maybe have been involved in venture or angel investors or in the tech industry. And I think that would then let the whole system flow. To use a digestive analogy, everything will flow, which is good, right? Yeah.
Okay. So I guess the good thing is that these 2 points, right, choke points, are not difficult to overcome, because I think you can show them you've been doing this, and look, because of that, this is happening. Intentions are good, but you need to get the right people in here, and you got to be able to meet like on a dime if it's urgent, right? Drop everything, have an 11 p.m. meeting. It has to be done because you're competing globally for the same companies, right? It's not that you're the only option. So I think they will listen. I hope you get that across to them, right? So that'll be good. But good. Okay, so I'm glad you've identified with your exposure. But look, got a few more questions for you, Tom. And I think another one is that, and you kind of mentioned it, and I think I already know what you're going to say. But actually, in Malaysia, there is a belief among even the players and ecosystem that there are just too many agencies. They're working to promote the startup space, and the fear is that they don't cooperate with each other, and they're all trying to meet their KPIs, and that becomes unintentionally becomes destructive, right, and obstructive. Not destructive, but obstructive. So, but you clearly don't feel so. Do share why.
Yeah, no, I know, because people have been trying to pinpoint why. What can we do to make Malaysia's tech ecosystem even better, right? Do more. And I think a lot of people have been saying, well, maybe there's just too many agencies doing redundant activities. I don't see it that way. I think all these agencies are doing great things, and I think it gives entrepreneurs more options, right? It's like you get turned down by one. If you're persistent, there's another channel. I mean, how many people do we know that didn't get into the college of their choice? That doesn't mean they weren't good. You could go apply to another college. I think Malaysia has actually built out a very robust, interconnected with redundancy ecosystem where entrepreneurs have numerous choices. Look, venture capitalist agencies make mistakes all the time. But entrepreneurs in Malaysia have a choice. Okay, this one maybe didn't like you for whatever reason. You get to apply again. right? You can go to Cradle, you can go to MTDC, right? There's so many different MDV, right? Yeah. I think that's a good thing. I think though, people are a little concerned, which is why Malaysia's got all the ingredients in place. Why are we not getting more recognition or producing more unicorns? Yeah. And I think it comes back to what you call the constipation point or the choke point, which is there is institutional capital and there is a lot of startup support ecosystems and relationship building and accelerators, incubators. The choke point is that capital from the institutional investors needs to be deployed faster and more effectively.
Okay, fine. All right, great. I'm glad you think that. It's great that you mentioned sometimes VCs make mistakes and that's not the end of it, right? If you only go to a one-stop agency. So great. And there's an interesting point from Aziz here, but while you're digesting their very long point, just a quick one. Do you find, can you talk about some of the distinguishing features, if there are traits that you find, standout traits among Malaysian founders? And then you can take that question from Aziz too.
Yeah, no, I think in general, and now, Kamji, you're putting me on the spot because, again, generalizing, but I think within the region, Malaysian entrepreneurs, I think, first of all, are known for being, very modest and humble, right? Relative to some other entrepreneurs from other regions. And I think Malaysian entrepreneurs are known for being able to operate in very diverse, multicultural, multi-ethnic, multi-religious environments, which I think becomes even more critical in this interconnected world. I think that's a real advantage for Malaysian entrepreneurs. Most Malaysian entrepreneurs that I've met can speak multiple languages, on average at least 3 to 4. And their understanding of other religions, cultures, far surpasses, even when I was in the States, US entrepreneurs, right? So I think that's a real plus for Malaysian entrepreneurs.
All right.
Nice, great. Go ahead, Nigesh, you want to bring up the point by Aziz?
Yeah, so I think Aziz was agreeing with what Thomas mentioned before. It's trying to get this process moving faster, right? So that you actually can capitalize with all the great ideas, innovation, entrepreneurs, and also business owners that are out there. But we actually got a question here, which turns it around to the investors, right? And maybe your point of view, Thomas, this is from Saji. He's asking, many of us entrepreneurs here feel like, unlike Silicon Valley, Asian investors are pretty safe, software only, easily scalable startups. Do you think that's the case?
I think maybe that was the stereotype in the past. I do think that's changing. I actually think a lot of the investors here now, for Gobi, we are now really focused on circular economy, sustainable initiatives. I think it depends on, I think Asian VCs needed time to catch up. And you're right, in the old days, we were really kind of what we call copying from Silicon Valley. But I think as Asian VCs gain confidence and achieve success, they're now branching out, and in many ways, they're focusing on the problems of the emerging economies, the emerging market, and they're not going to be solved by Silicon Valley, right? So in that sense, I really see Asian-based VCs taking the lead in innovation and funding sectors that maybe even US VCs aren't funding. So I see that changing.
Cool.
Right. Awesome to hear that, Thomas. That means there's a bountiful opportunity right here in the Asian region. So on that note, Thomas, we actually want to say thank you for now, but don't go anywhere. We're going to get you back at the end.
Yeah, sorry. Just think about, we want you to share your thoughts on My Digital when you come back also. Yeah. So
all right. Sure. This is something that is a pet peeve for Karam. He's not going to let it go.
Not a pet peeve. It's the most important, plan for this country over the next 10 years. So.
That's true. So it actually is going to define what happens in this country. And hopefully it's something that it says it's going to be, instead of, another plan was just on paper. Let's see how it's going to be operationalized. But next, let's bring a guy who's actually talking about Penang and how Penang is getting real serious about getting digital. Ladies and gentlemen, Tony Yeoh, CEO of Digital Penang. Thanks for joining us, Tony.
Hi, Nigesh. Thank you. Hi, Karl.
Hey, how's it going, man? Thanks for
Very good.
appearing on the show. Really excited to have you on. And I think it's because there's probably not enough people are aware of this new master plan by the Penang State government. Even on your would you call yourself an agency or your unit? Yeah, within the state, right?
We are an agency. Yes, we are a state government linked company. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe why don't you share quickly about what your agency's mandate is, and then talk about take it out to the digital master plan, and especially how you think that Penang, like I said, right, 3 years from now, how do you think Penang will be like after with this plan already executed successfully? We'll assume it'll be executed successfully because I'm from Penang, you're from Penang, and we're gonna get it right.
And my grandparents are from Penang, so that's kampung for me.
There you go.
Thanks for the pressure, guys. Okay, so I guess our agency was set up last year in the midst of the COVID crisis, and basically, if you know, the Chief Minister had a Penang 2030 vision, and under that vision, there are 4 strategic themes in there. Right, one of the themes is livability in terms of the environment. The second one is on an upgraded economy with strong incomes for the household. And the third one is basically an engaged community and a civic engagement. And the fourth one is obviously on the built environment for infrastructure. So on the Penang 2030 vision, a lot of it is very physical. So the other facet of it is obviously digital, right? The transformation has 2 facets of it, and one is digital and physical. So that's how this agency was set up. And funny enough, when we were set up in June, we had a call from PwC, who were the consultants to the My Digital transformation plan, and they were discussing because they know that we were developing our plan as well. So our transformation plan is pretty much aligned under the 4 themes, as well as what My Digital themes are as well. So if you look at the federal level, My Digital is basically trying to coordinate 3 other agencies, which is Mampu for the digital governance, and MDEC for the digital economy, and MCMC for the digital infrastructure. So similarly, we are trying to be that coordinating agency at the state level, right? Because every agency is trying to do their own thing. As you mentioned, we have an overload of agencies, and so trying to coordinate them and align them to basically work towards the digital strategy. So that's basically the role for Digital Penang. So why is our plan only for 3 years? I think the plan is basically 3, 6, and 9, right? So we're looking at it 3 years because technology cycle is very short.
Okay, fair.
People are very impatient, and we are looking at a 3-year cycle, right? So the first stage in the 3 years is basically setting the foundation, right? So getting everybody aligned, getting people to be very aware of some of the key issues that we're facing. So in the infrastructure in 3 years' time, so if MCMC under Jendela does well and actually implements the plan, by 2023, Penang should be fiberized by then. So under the 3-4-5 strategy of retiring 3G and then beefing up 4G and fiber, and then preparing for 5G. So by 2023, I think if everything goes well, then Penang should be fully fiberized and should also have a good 5G infrastructure ready for it. Right? So that would be the first one. The other one that we're very concerned about is, if you look at many countries who have gone down this digital journey, it's actually about the adoption. Adoption is very key. So the best way to get adoption is actually payments. Right? So that's the reason why we're pushing e-wallets very strongly. And since the crisis, actually, out of a population of 1.75 million, we have 1.4 million wallets out there just for touch and go. Right?
For Penang.
Yeah, just Penang alone. Yeah.
Wow,
so 1.4 million out of 1.7 million is not bad. It's 75% adoption. Wallets out there.
You've got a lot of miners out there, with their touch and go e-wallet, man.
Yeah, but on a monthly active basis, we have only 400K users. And the gross merchandise value is probably around 200 million ringgit. So that's not bad, about 30% of usage. Right? So By 2023, I hope that we would raise that to at least 70-75%. And so we are creating community programs to educate, raise digital literacy, especially with senior citizens, the less digital literate communities in the rural areas, right? To help them. Targeted programs for farmers, for fishermen and stuff like that, right? So we're running those programs to push adoption.
Okay.
On the governance side, I mean, if we align ourselves with Mampu, for example, on the digital governance, the most important thing actually, and everybody is screaming about it, is data. There is really no single source of truth about data, and this challenge that we have about agencies not sharing data, and what are the guidelines about what is that aggregate data that you could share? I think that's really the classification of data and what really can you share. I think that will be one of the biggest challenges. So by 2023, if we can get within the government, across all agencies, across state boards, that data sharing infrastructure, I think that will be a huge milestone for us. Even within My Digital itself, they have a specific strategy as well. It's called My GDX.
Okay.
So that's why we're working with My GDX as well, to look at the government data exchange as well, to see how we could replicate that at the state level. That will be one of the key things that we'll be working on.
Understood.
Lastly, on the digital economy, so we're aligned with MDEC, right? And so...
sorry, before you go on, Nigesh, I'm really loving what I'm hearing, because
same here.
As much as possible, you're trying to align and sync with what's already existing. And it's so easy to say that, hey, we're Penang, we're the Silicon Valley of Asia, right? We'll do it better. Show the federal government that we can do it better. But I'm hearing a lot of desire to work together and collaboratively, build up the nation's ecosystem, right? So well done to Penang, because you at least the mindset is right. It's not trying to showmanship. We show them we can do better. So wonderful to hear that.
I think we are looking for collaboration. I don't think we can do it on our own, right? So there's lots of learnings that have already been done. I think our only pet peeve, I guess, is that federal is Klang Valley today, right? The other 13 states don't see anything, right? So that's our only feedback.
You have to shout and
so we're trying to connect.
Fantastic.
So we're trying to connect. So at the digital economy level, working with MDEC, I think there are three parts to it. One is actually also with MIDA, is on SME digitalization. So our agency is very focused on local enterprise to get them to go digital, to go international. That will be the top priority, right? I mean, and we're at a very basic level. So I mean, we have factories that are using very old machines, right? And we don't even talk about IR 4.0. We're probably at IR 2.0, right? So
2.0, 2.5.
So we're just getting at that basic level, and I think in 2 or 3 years' time, if we can just get data, even for the factories, in terms of them understanding their productivity, their quality, I think that would be a huge milestone for us. So building that foundation for the SME. For the other non-manufacturing SMEs, we're just basically getting them onto platforms, eCommerce, right? To go online, offline to online, basically to go on eCommerce, B2B, B2C. Those will be the key stuff that we're driving. And then the last piece is basically on the startup ecosystem. This is my biggest challenge, is basically building an ecosystem is a very tough job, because we have to solve as the supply and the demand players and at the same time, right? So just giving out grants alone isn't enough. We need to bring the whole community together, the whole ecosystem together. In the startup ecosystem, actually, Penang has been a lot more successful with engineers than with software technologists.
Absolutely.
So I mean, if you look at the 11 companies that are tech companies that are listed in Bursa, for example, 7 of them are from Penang. Right? Mr. E.K. Tan is the latest billionaire that is listed in Forbes, right? 1.1 billion US net worth. So he's an engineer by training. So all these engineers are actually a lot more successful. So our really focus is actually trying to drive the next generation engineer entrepreneurs Today, all these successful engineers, they are in their early 50s. So we're looking at where is the next generation of engineer entrepreneurs coming from, right? So that will be one key focus. And we are seeing quite a lot of fantastic products coming out, especially in robotics. They're doing a lot of very cool stuff in robotics, in visioning equipment, and those kind of things, IoT stuff. And I think that's where our strength would be. On the software technology startups, I think if we could get a pipeline, and we are trying to gear up the ideation to get a pipeline of maybe, so that then we will. And the biggest challenge actually is not about the agencies and all that. To me, I think it's about the quality of problems they are solving. I think that will be the biggest challenge. And so we're trying to get them to look at the quality of problems. And so getting enterprises to create that problems for them and say, go solve it for me, right? And so that's what we're looking at. And then lastly is, as you know, we are strong in the two manufacturing sectors of E&E, electronics and electrical, and medical devices, right? So the top 7 medical devices manufacturers are in Penang. So we are looking at what is the next adjacent sector that we could leverage on our engineering competence to basically get what is the next adjacent sector. So basically, in a nutshell, that in a very broad brush, that would be the 3-year strategy for us.
Oh, but and you've also actually, I was wrong. I said 20 million. It's actually 50 million ringgit the government has committed, right, over the next 3 years. So that's some decent firepower to trigger and get things moving quicker, right? Instead of people complaining no budget, got to wait. So you guys have cut through that, so that's good, because you're also putting your money where your mouth is, and if you've got a strong foundation ready, and you need to just get things moving along, and the money helps seed things and get people generated, right, and moving and motivated to achieve something. So that's kind of cool. But the complaint or the one common theme I hear about the plan is that even people from Penang are saying that there's no big, hairy, audacious goal, something that's aspirational. So whether the state government, those who are planning it agree with that or not. So that's the one contention. It'd be nice to have something quite audacious that one want to try to achieve. So aside from all the very practical and logical things you're saying, we need to do step by step.
Yeah, well, the big audacious goal are the 3 islands that we are reclaiming, right? And that's very controversial. That's very controversial. So,
Right. So I think due to time as well, so we are going to get Thomas in. But before we get Thomas in, I actually, because being an engineer myself, with where I graduated and what I did early days before doing what I'm doing right now, I like the fact that I'm hearing that focus on startups with engineering, because I haven't heard that anywhere much, right? Because everyone is chasing after this whole digital startups, software startups, those kind of things. But who is doing actually creating the products that's going to work with these softwares, with these digital tools, IoT? Who is doing it here in Malaysia? It's great to hear that is a core plan in Penang itself, and it's actually leveraging on the strength that Penang has.
Yeah,
that's awesome to hear that, Tony. Yeah. So let's do this. Let's bring Thomas back in and maybe get some last words from Thomas and Tony. Hey, Thomas, welcome back.
Okay, so Thomas, you've had time to sit and think about digital, My Digital, which is very important. So do you want to just share some thoughts, on what do you think about the idea behind My Digital and some of the plans listed out? Like I think Tony mentioned something very important, GDX, right? Government Data Exchange. We've been talking about it for a long time, and like you said, the policy makers are aware it needs to be done. But then when it filters down to respective departments or director generals or ministries, there's always the concern, hey, wait a minute, dangerous, is that? I heard of this hack. Oh, wait a minute, Facebook, 11 million Malaysians just got, their accounts got hacked. Do we really want to do this? There's plenty of excuses to not get it done or to wait, let's do a bit more study or whatever. So that's just one example. But coming back out again for My Digital, what are your thoughts on it itself?
Yeah, no, I think, again, certainly I'm not an expert, but just based on what I've read in the media and what I've heard, I mean, I think, look, directionally, it's great. I mean, look, 5G infrastructure, connectivity, that's the infrastructure of the future, right? But from my standpoint, my perspective is, the government has laid out very kind of big long-term goals,
Yeah.
as a capitalist, I would love to see, Malaysia create, a homegrown unicorn by the end of this year. I think that would go a long way to energizing and reclaiming some of the lead, right? Stealing back some of the thunder that other markets in Southeast Asia have taken. And I think having an iconic success case from Malaysia would do more, right? As Tony was saying, you've got a billionaire in Penang, that gets young engineers excited, right? If we had one success case, if we had, the institutional investors here in Malaysia, and we could somehow link that together and get a homegrown Malaysian tech startup become a unicorn by the end of this year, I think I would do so much to support the overall goal of My Digital and really make it tangible, right? That's what guys like us, Gobi, we're focused on doing, and we're hoping something like this could happen.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Very good. Wow. So let's aim for that, right? So I kind of don't like the unicorn thing because it gets you caught up in the buzz and the vaporware from the Silicon Valley, and I think that's a negative. But you also make a good point that it can be this iconic catalyst, right, to give everyone the intuition that, hey, we can actually do it, and I'm going to put in 22 hours, a day, working at my idea, my product, right, instead of 12 hours a day, because he's done it or she's done it. I want to do it too. So
and you know what? I think having a successful case from Malaysia would do more to relieve that constipation than it would be the laxative that, excuse this analogy, it's going to sound terrible, but the trickle down effect would benefit KL, Penang, everywhere, right? I mean, it's just holy, but you need that success case that everybody can point to, because then that gives everybody the confidence. All of a sudden, you're more willing to take a chance because their success begets success.
Right. True. And just as a quick one, Nigesh, before you decide, I was with the head of an agency who's like your peer, and he was saying that the problem is that so Tony, he's your peer in another state. He said that he finds that when he's in meetings with the Exco, if you want to get approval to build a flyover or a bridge somewhere, it's a lot easier to get that 50 million ringgit. When you're saying you want to get extra money to do something in the digital space, it kind of just grinds down. But he's plugging away at it. So it's just like you are going to have to. So, and I hope what Thomas says, maybe if you have this iconic success, everybody gets excited, saying, "Hey, maybe I want the next, a unicorn or super success to be from our state, right? To be from Negeri Sembilan or whatever." So let's hope that happens. We're all working to at least creating the right ecosystem for that to happen. Play our little roles. Nikesh, sorry, you wanted to end with something. I cut you off there because I got too excited.
It's okay, Karam. We know that you're always excited. That's a good thing. That keeps the show alive. But let's end with this. There's actually a comment question coming from Aziz. Actually, let's bring that up. And maybe this one we'll direct it at Tony first, and then maybe Thomas, you might want to jump in with some thoughts. This is actually going back to that whole constipation point, but specifically in the Penang scenario. And why is it that 50 years industrial experience in Penang, and we know Penang has had that, have not given birth to more tech startups in IoT, hardware, robotics, health, tech, etc. Tony, what do you think?
Well, it could be it could be political suicide for me to answer this, but I'll try. I think like similar countries, even in Singapore, for example, the over-reliance and dependence on MNCs and foreign FDI. I think that is something that actually sucks away a lot of talent. And then also creates an environment where people do not need to take risk, right? I just work for an MNC, I get a high-paying job, then maybe my shelf life is short, but then I'll worry about that because I'll just start to milk the cow first. Right? So that to me, I think it's part of that culture, and so we are trying to shift away and see how we can generate and spur the local enterprise. I think that would be our focus.
All right, Thomas, any thoughts about this?
Yeah, no, I think, again, I have been to Penang many times. I think there's great potential there. In fact, Gobi's contemplated about setting up a second office outside of KL. Penang would be the next one. So
Tony, you better get.
Please welcome, Thomas. I welcome you. I will give you an office space.
And I think back to Kevin's point there. I think the reason why it hasn't given birth is because Tony wasn't there. Tony's there now.
Yeah.
Well,
so Tony,
like
no pressure, Tony. But
yeah, well, I mean, it's like herding cats at the moment. So
we'll get there. It all starts somewhere. So on that note, I want to thank both Thomas and also Tony. Thank you so much for joining us this Friday for this Tech Talk Friday, and a lot of insight that we got from you guys, and especially from both of y'all, whether it's constipation for startups and how we get over that, and what's happening in Penang when it comes to digital. Thank you so much. So on that note, we're going to say bye-bye on this Friday. Thank you so much for those of y'all who joined us on the stream. There was a lot of comments today. Great. We want that. We want that during this Tech Talk because you are as much of this conversation as we are here. So from me and my equal host, I'm still equal host even though I don't want to break my leg, equal host Karamjit from DNA. We want to say thank you to everybody. Have an awesome Friday and weekend coming up. And we will catch you next week on Tech Talk Friday, which is brought to you by Nicole. Take care, everybody.
Thanks Jeff Sia, VC from Singapore, also threw in some comments there. Thank you very much.
Definitely.
Thank
you, everybody.
Thank you.
Jackie 啊，你有冇聽啲咧叫 app 叫 Nicole 咯
？Nicole 是做乜？
唔是啦，我教你講 app 啦嘛。嘅你看啲 Nicole 你看，依家了後真正是 article、podcast、courses 嘅啊。我教你講啊，你愛變好名，你愛好名，
愛好名啊，定啲
你愛趁錢無？
趁這類咯。
啊，所以啊，你特別用 Nicole，真係講，你睇啦，你看誒 article 嘅咧，你睇啦，你變真搞嘅，知無？
唔嘢無，
我看啲有年，你看啲 article 看按照好名，按照趁這類，哇！呀，你睇。
一日看下你咪轉來做搞。
有啦，教你講你嘛，你咪聽，當見到特別去看，特別看㗎了，
啊，你講你這樣先㗎啦，
OK，好，你先好到嚟。